Well, hello everyone. Welcome to my studio. And today is November 18th, 2022, and this is my fall virtual market. So what I'm doing for my virtual quilt market is what I usually do, is show you my next 3 collections that are coming up. And as you know, I'm a designer for Riley Blake Designs, and they are also doing their virtual market on their Facebook. And so each of us designers have an opportunity to film, our own collections and talk about them and show things that we have upcoming and just be a little bit more, up close and personal with our designs. And it's also fun to do a virtual market, and I've got really good feedback from you all, and thank you very much, because as you know, if you're a quilt shop owner, you get to go to quilt market and you get to see all the new things. But if you don't happen to be a quilt shop owner, then you have to wait for the quilt shops to get into their shops or look online and things like that to see what's new. This way, everyone gets to see everything that we have to offer and what is coming up. And that's really fun for the designer as well, as all of us quilters, right? And so what I'm going to talk about first is calico. I have, in my spring market, I showed you the storyboard, and now I have some things that I can show you because it's coming next month. And so, of course, we've got some pre-cuts and pre-yardage that I was able to get ahead of time to start working on a few projects. This is the storyboard, so I'll just hurry and open that up so that you're familiar with, the sew along and different things that I had showed you previously. Some things we're still waiting for, obviously, because the fabric isn't here yet, but it's coming. And so I wanted to show you the fabric instead of the other collections. I'm able to show you paper and what the fabric looks like with paper until I get the actual fabric. So here are the 4 backgrounds right here that are in calico that all go together really nicely. We're using all 4 of these in the main quilt here for the sew along. And then I also wanted to show you this print. I'll unfold this a little bit. This is 1 yard of it. This is part of the 1 yard bundle, so you can see that. Little cheater print from calico, and that's really fun. And then I'll just bring in different prints from the collection and show you the actual fabric. So here's 2 denims that are in the in the collection. Right here are the daisies and the ciders from the collection right there. Right here we've got the plum colors. These 3 right there. I love how those go together. So this is taffy, this is plum, and this is velvet. Then we've got alpine and leaf. Here's the blues. I'm just going to lay these out like this, stacked on so you can see. This is the print that we're using for the border in the main quilt. There's the blues right there. Here's the reds. So I wanted to get like 3 different shades of red in here. This is my, schoolhouses and barn reds and things like that. And then of course, because we're doing garden quilt too, we need a lot of greens in this collection. So here we've got 5 different greens. I love how those look together. Here's our browns and tea dyes. And of course, those are necessary for a garden quilt as well. We've got 2 oranges in the collection. And then here's the tea roses and the corals and the pinks and the frostings. I've been having a good time playing with these in the last little bit. And then we've got our neutrals here that are very necessary to pull all of those colors together. And that's what the neutrals do. All right, so there's the fabrics right there. And so let me show you a few blocks that I've been able to make. Oh, first I'm going to show you a panel. Cass, you want to hand me that panel that's right there? I've got piles of stuff everywhere. With this collection and the storyboard I showed you, my bag panels. Let me show you the picture. You can kind of see them all at once. So these are my zippy bags too. So I had a zippy bags 1 panel. And so what it consists of is 1 whole panel that makes 4 project bags and then 4 smaller project bags. These can go inside of the larger ones or use them all separately. And they use my happy zippers, and I have new colors. So those will be coming with the panel, but I've got this and I just kind of wanted to show you, maybe, like I say, a little bit up close and personal, what they may be looking like. So this is the panel that I've got to get sewn together here. So you can kind of see I took designs from past collections and, you know, same instructions. I did a tutorial on how to make my bags, and so it's going to be the exact same thing. They're all measuring the same, just different designs and different colors. So I wanted to show you that because I had that sitting here. And then, okay, let's pull this in. Let's talk about, let me show you what I've got here. These are the boxed kits. This is what you make from the 5-inch stackers that come in that little, come in a little kit with the pattern. Let me unfold this so I can do you some show and tell here of my snails. And this is Calico Snails Table Runner, and again it comes in I always turn to the page first that I need to get to. Second, there we go. So it comes in a kit with the pattern in this cute little jar, plastic jar container. Okay, so that's kind of a sneak peek of that and what that looks like. And then this is kind of a peek, and this is a big quilt, so I really can't show you the whole thing, but I just kind of wanted to show you what the fabrics look like together in a quilt. This is this quilt right here. This is Calico Birds, and it comes in the 10-inch stacker boxed kit here with the pattern, and that's how that's available. Now if you look on Riley Blake Designs, like their Instagram, their Facebook and things like that, they have some really nice pictures they took of these quilts at their booth in Houston, so you can see this kind of, you know, the whole thing full scale. But this gives you an idea, like I say, of what the calico fabrics look like together. That's that bird and some flowers there. Okay. And then I'm just going to pull this stack in here. And talk to you a little bit about the Calico Garden Sew Along. Okay, so this starts in January. This is what the quilt looks like. Again, that's a little bit maybe larger photo of it. So this is the Calico Garden quilt. And I think that what we're going to do for the sew along starting in January is I'm going to do something that I haven't normally done before, is I'm going to start with the borders instead of saving them until last. So I have some pieced blocks that you just applique a circle in. These are the star flowers, and within the border there's some applique blocks as well. And so I was able to make up a few of these blocks to show you, just to give you an idea of what they look like. So we've got here, I think these are sideways, so I'm going to turn them. So these are the ones that I did so far. You can see that I've got these 3 backgrounds are going to be used in those blocks, and then the 4th background is on all of these applique ones right here. And so I was able to do 3 of the small ones that are in the border to show you. And I love how these applique blocks look on this background here. And on this one, there's a little teeny bit of embroidery in the quilt, just a straight stitch here and a few buttons. So there's 2 blocks like this that have those buttons, and then there's a little bit of embroidery here for the butterflies and the snail, and then for the bees. And then that's it. Oh, and for the chicken legs. Those little hens down there. And so again, this is this block right here in the border. This one is over here, and this plum colored flower is there. And then I also made this one that's in the top corner right here. So just in case, I don't know if you can see the whole thing, so I'll kind of move it back and forth a little bit. So that's going to be fun. Now this sew along is going to go a little bit longer, just because there's a lot in this quilt. So I'm not exactly sure. I'm not finished with the sew along guide and the schedule yet, but it definitely will go longer, so that, I don't want to be to where we're doing, 2 or 3 blocks a week or anything like that. I want to be able to just concentrate on each block, take the time we need, and enjoy the journey. And so just a heads up, this will last a little bit longer than my typical, 13, 14 weeks. And so that's what I have to show you on the sew along. I'm so excited about that. And as I talked about in my spring market, there's a lot of piecing, machine piecing, rotary cut, and machine piece blocks in this quilt, as well as applique. This potting shed right here is all machine pieced. This is all machine pieced. The fence is all machine pieced. And, the star flower blocks are all pieced except for the circle applique in the middle. And, there's several things that are pieced. And so this is really going to be a fun quilt. Okay, on to the quilt seeds. So this is what the quilt seed packets are going to look like. And they're going to be the same size as my, prairie quilt seeds as far as the packet itself, but the blocks themselves are bigger, different sizes. And so these blocks right here, I don't want to tell you wrong, but just because I'm going to be talking about a lot of stuff, and so I have a lot of things that I've measured, but these blocks are 16 by 18, and then we add the borders around them. And I will be doing a quilt just like I did with the prairie seeds, how I did a free PDF download for the setting. And so this one actually has a few extra blocks that that are not vegetables, but go with the quilt. And so this will be like a little vegetable patch quilt. And so I will do that, probably, I don't know, I'll probably do a video on that probably, in the springtime, the finishing on that, February, March, something like that. But I have these blocks here, and I want to show you the blocks and then the packet. So I'll just transfer those over there. So here's that was the tomatoes. Sorry, that was calico tomatoes. This is calico corn and peas. So hopefully you can see the entire block if I move it back and forth a little bit just to make sure it's all in the screen. This is the calico squash block. As a quilter, I know you understand this, always picking off threads, right? Okay, and then here's the calico pumpkin block. The calico peppers. And then the last one, so there's six calico quilt seeds, and these are the root veggies. So those are fun. And I also wanted to show you, let's see, what else have I got of calico that I can show you. These are, this is my small vintage trim right here that we're using right here for the little smoke coming out of the potting shed chimney. And so this is the small size, and this is in the color Pebble. And so that's new, especially made for this quilt. And so I just wanted to show you that. And then I do have the prototype of the Calico Garden Sew Simple shapes. There are 88 shapes in the set. They're set O, and this is what they look like. So there's a lot of different fun things we can do with that set. Okay, did I have anything else here? Oh, one more thing to show you that's trickled in. Things are starting to slowly trickle in. Here is the crafting paper pad, the calico one. I just love these. These are 8.5 by 11. And so I'll show you those pages in a minute. But so there's all different colors and prints of the prints in here. And I use that in my Sew Along Guide binder. And then we've got these little clip art in there. I'll have to do with the quilt. These are really fun, and I have fun playing with these. I want to show you those that are here. And let's see. That's all I've got to show you from Calico. Super excited about it. And of course, when January gets here, I will be doing my Be Prepared post for this sew along that starts the end of January. And that always takes place on my blog. And then the first week of the sew along takes place here on my YouTube channel, where I do a tutorial, and I'll be doing a tutorial on one of these border blocks, whichever we're going to start with. Haven't decided that yet, but I do know it's going to be border blocks first. So that's all I have to show you with Calico. And so let me clear all this off, and I'll be right back. And I'm going to show you and have some show and tell. I'm going to tell you all about Be Vintage. Okay, now I get to tell you about Be Vintage. So Be Vintage comes out in March of next year. Because you can always tell that this is going to be a basic, meaning it's going to be in the warehouse, it's going to be evergreen. It's not going to be one of those collections that just come and go. It's always going to be available. You can always tell what my basics are because they have the word Be in front of them. So the reason I wanted to do this is I grew up in a quilting family. And yes, we pieced quilts, we quilted whole cloth quilts. And when I say we, I'm talking about my grandma and her sisters and my mom and my aunts and then my sisters as well. And, you know, my cousins and things like that. It was a quilting family. So we did a lot of quilting, and that was just a normal thing in our lives. But we always did baby quilts, and some of them were applique as well. And so I wanted to do, well, some were wedding quilts too, but most of the time our appliques were for baby quilts or for children's, you know, birthdays or things like that. And so I wanted to design a set of Sew Simple shapes. So I've got one set. Here's the prototype with 65 templates in here of Be Vintage, okay, that goes with this quilt. And so I designed 20 blocks that were, you know, from my memories or from my grandma's, you know, pattern basket and things like that, that we just did a lot. That could be for girls or boys and both. And what I wanted to do was do a sampler quilt, which we really didn't do back then a lot with these blocks. We would just take one and, you know, do the same block repeated. But I thought it'd be really fun to do a sew along with the sampler quilt, and so that I could show you how I make each of these blocks, and so that, you know, you quilt shops could design different things, you know, different quilts that go with the, I'm not explaining this very well. So what I did was I designed the same setting, okay? And then I also colored 6 different quilts for you. And so let me show you, before I show you the fabric, I'm going to show you those quilts so you know what I'm talking about. I just kind of want to explain the concept of what I had in mind when I began this. Okay, so here's the quilt with the 20 different blocks. But what I'm saying is each block can be a quilt within itself. And so in this storyboard, I did color, like you can just take the butterfly quilt. It's the same setting. It just has different fabrics within the collection for the outside, or not within specifically Be Vintage. Some of them, sometimes they have my basics in there as well, because all of my basics work together. And as I continue to design basics, then I make sure that they all go with each other. And so I've done the vintage apples, the vintage butterflies, and so you guys can kit it up, the Sunbonnet Sue, the vintage dahlias, and we've got 2 more here. And this is the vintage leaves and Scotty dogs. And so you can see that's simply just 6 of these blocks. Every one of these 20 blocks could be their own quilt. And in the future, I'm planning on coloring, using this set again and my basics, and coloring a few more quilts for you each time, so that you as quilt shops, I see that many of you are offering these kits for all these quilts, and I really appreciate that. And that was the point of why I wanted to do this, to let you guys be the boss of your own quilt and be able to do a quilt specifically for your family members, or your friends, and gifts that you want to be giving. And so that was the concept of vintage. Now for the fabric of Be Vintage, and you know, I'm always wanting to do the vintage stuff because I'm very inspired by that. And so here are the fabrics, how they all look together. And here they are on the storyboard. But I like to show you like the print off, a larger print off of the actual size. These are all actual size prints in here, but I do like to show you what each one looks like. So I'm going to close this up so you can see each print individually. So I'm just going to go through here and show you the prints as I tell you what I did with these prints, because some of you may recognize these prints, because what I did is I went through all of my fabric collections that I've done up to this point, and I took at least one print from each collection. Some have 2 or 3, and I recolored them. A few times I rescaled them in a few instances and put them in this collection. So that's what I did for this. So, you know, for instance, this one is for my original Sew Cherry print, and then I also put this in Sew Cherry 2. I also had this in polka dot stitches, but I've had it in so many other colors, but I've never had it in tea rose and denim, and so then I colored them in here. And you know, so, and some of them look completely different because they're colored completely different. This is from Vintage Happy 2. And, you know, these are from Flea Market. totally recolored. They just look different. This was one of my panels from my Cozy Christmas collection. These are from Granny Chic. And so it's been really fun to take these, recolor them, and compile it, kind of rescale, like I say, and compile it into a collection that is a basic called the Vintage. And it's so fun to see these favorite prints that I've used over and over again and just put them in different colors. This one I decided to do a cloud ground, and that one has pewter background, and it just really makes them look different. Now, so those are the prints. There's 42 prints in the collection, and you know, this will come in pre-cuts and everything like that. And I'm also doing 2 wide backs right here, and that's what these look like. So I think those will be really great wide backs. And then I also did my cheater cloth for this, and so let me show you some close-up, a little bit closer up pictures. So this is, there's several of these, but it kind of gives you an idea. This is actual scale of the print, and I just have some print offs here, you know, that you can see when you connect what it looks like. But you can see in this one what the block looks like and what it looks like on the fabric. But this is the repeat here. So these are all the different blocks that's on the fabric is the repeat, and this is the actual size of the fabric. So I'm excited about that. And what I wanted to do with this, I wanted to take a block, a really traditional vintage block that was super hard maybe to sew, and so put it on a cheater cloth. So that's what I did with that. Okay, let me move that out of the way. And then I'm going to talk to you more about this sew along now and this quilt. And I did decide to have a sew along with this, and I'm going to do it in July. I'll be doing it on my YouTube channel and my blog. Not exactly sure yet the schedule, other than the start date will be Monday, July 10th, and I will be doing a Be Prepared post for that on my blog as well, so you can read all about it. My Be Prepared posts are very informative because I show you everything that you need for the quilt, the fabric, give you information so you can see a visual of what I'm talking about, why you'll need it, and you know, that kind of thing. And so again, here's the quilt, and now I'm going to show you the actual blocks size. I mean, not the actual blocks because I don't have the fabric, but the size. So these blocks finish at 10 inches in here, and so you'll see kind of like my writing down here, but I wanted to be able to show you each block and what they look like. So this is overall Bill. This is Sunbonnet Sue. And so you can see this is actual all scaled fabric and what's actually going to look like. Here's the Kitty block. This one is the Corsage block. Pennsylvania Dutch block. The Songbird block. Like I say, I think all of these, this is the Dahlia block, would go so cute just in its own quilt setting. So eventually I will have colored all of them, and that's the Cottage block. Here's the Flower block, Teapot block, the Cherries, the Butterfly, Daisy Chain, the Scotty Dog, Spring Basket, Tulip, Apple, Maple Leaf, Umbrella block, and the Strawberry block. And so that's the actual blocks that go in here. And then here is a larger picture of that butterfly quilt. And within the storyboard, you quilt shops will see, you know, the yardage requirements and things like that for the kits, and so you never have to guess on that. There's the apples. There's the dahlia. The leaves. The Scotty dog. The Sunbonnet Sue. And so again, what I wanted to show you, these are all the same setting. I don't know how much you can see here like this, but these are all the same setting, just different fabrics. And so what's really, and they're twin size quilts. Here, let me look in here real quick to see the finished size of this, just to make sure, again, that I don't tell you wrong. It's 71 by 84, so all of the quilts finished by 71 by 84 because of the same setting. But this also gives you the freedom to understand, of course, that you don't have to use the fabric that I chose for this border of the Scotty dog. Maybe you want to use pink. Maybe you don't want green, and because this is a fall quilt, maybe you want to use one of the orange prints for your settings. Or if you're not, a purple person, maybe you want to do aqua or pink or something. So that's all totally up to you, and can just, you can, like I say, be the boss of your own quilt and customize to match bedrooms and home decor. And then I've also got another quilt in here that a lot of you are doing quilt kits with, and that is this right here. Is made with my Bee Vintage fabrics with this 6-inch vintage kite paper that looks like this. Let's see. Thought I pulled a packet of that out. Here it is. So this is what the vintage kite paper looks like. Okay, and it's paper piecing on the machine like that. And so I love how this turned out. Here's just a little bit larger picture. And this is done with Bee backgrounds and Bee Vintage fabric. Now, I didn't design any backgrounds to go with this collection because I already have, because this is a basic, I already have a lot of basics, background basics. And so I just went ahead and used those to color that in all of these quilts. Okay, so let's go through here. You can see I have a few things here on the counter that I can show you. Here are some pages. This is like the basics for the vintage leaves. They're different basics collections of mine, and along with the Bee Vintage, and for the vintage apples and things like that. So you'll find those in the storyboard. Now, these notions here that I did are the charms. I don't have any charms to show you, but I've got these 3 charms. I'm doing this vinyl zipper bag, which I can show you here, although it's going to have a silver clasp, not clasp, a pull. But that's what that looks like. Let me see if I can get it open. Okay, and these have been really fun. I love this vinyl. You can just wipe it off. This is great for notions as well as cosmetics or whatever, but these are great. I also use these in my cross stitch for my threads and things like that. And then I have 3 new colors of my stork scissors coming out, and I've got these cute tape measures right here. See, so they're retractable. So what you do is you pull them out, and then you just push the button for that to go in. But there's that one, and there's that one, and that one. And these are also vinyl and can be wiped off, and that's really fun. And then I've got a new set of readers. Now these are magnification 5, which is what I use for cross stitch and what's pretty popular for cross stitch. And so I wanted to do a magnification 5, and I've been using this prototype for my stitching, and I love it. So that's what these look like. And I think that's all I've got to show you with the Bee Vintage. But again, I'm going to continue with this because it's a basic, coloring a few more quilts in my next basics collection, in my next Bee collection that I'll show you in my next, which would be Spring Virtual Market. I'll be showing you more quilts that you can use the Sew Simple shapes with. And so that's Be Vintage. And so let me clear all that off and I will be back and show you Hometown. Okay, I am so excited to tell you guys about Hometown. And one of the things that I forgot to tell you about, oh, Cass, will you hand me my storyboard of Be Vintage? One thing I forgot to tell you about my Be Vintage is how I named these fabrics, because I decided that when I went to do these Be Vintage fabrics that I wanted to name them after my grandma and my mom and all of my aunts and on my mom's side of the family. And so, you know, I have names like Mildred because that's my grandma. These are Mildred. These are Carol. That's my mom. I have Sarah Jane, Nettie, Marge, Elaine, Gladys, Tola, Leah, Lizzie, Sylvia, May, Doris, Lula, Suzanne, Edith, Isabel, Alice, Mabel, Hazel, and Cornelia. And those are all of my aunts and great aunts, along with my mom and my grandma on my mom's side of the family. And so I wanted to tell you that because when I decided to do Hometown, I decided to do the same thing when I named these prints, is because my hometown that I grew up in is Harriman, Utah, here in Utah, which was a very small rural town as I was growing up, but it is not small and rural anymore. But it was when I grew up. My grandma owned the mercantile there. We called it the Harriman Merc. And we all knew each other and did everything together. And I had a lot of my cousins living there, but I had a lot of close friends that were just like cousins to me. And like I say, because we're a small town and we all knew each other. And so what I did was I named the prints after a lot of those families that lived in the town, you know, their last name. So this is what the prints look like together. And again, this is to honor my hometown, and which is why I called it Hometown. I've been wanting to do this collection for a long time, and I've just been waiting for the right time to do it, and I just feel that this is the right time. And so I want to go ahead and show you the fabrics, and you know, one by one, just so you can see, because again, there's a little square in the storyboard, but I like to show you a little bit larger piece. So I designed fabrics here. I chose fabrics for the collection that reminded me sort of, you know, I just felt like prints maybe that I grew up with, prints that looked like maybe they were from the 60s. Some for my great aunts and my great grandmas that were, you know, a little bit older looking. And my goal was to design these and put them all together and make them cohesive in a collection that you would think of as a 30s prints with a 1800s print or something like that, and just have them go together. And in this quilt, which again, here's the main quilt, and of course, because it's my hometown quilt, it's had to be houses. And this collection is all about home, the comforts of home, family, good neighbors, family traditions, just, you know, anything to do with that, and, you know, good childhood memories. So I hope I'm not going through these too fast, but again, I don't want to go through them too slow, so I don't want to bore you. So I'm just going through each of these prints. Some of them I did 4 of because I felt like they were really great to go together. And then for this one, I did, well, let me show you this first. I did these 2 bee backgrounds that are original bee backgrounds in my bee backgrounds collection now, but I took this print, which is called Patterns, and recolored it in 2 different ways. So now I have a coral one, and I've got a milk can here. And then I did 2 more backgrounds here, right here. And then these are my wide backs right here in the collection. So there's a larger print of those, and I think those will be great wide backs. And then I also did a hometown wedding print. Let me get this out from under here. This is actual scale, just a piece of it, of the cheater cloth, and it's called Hometown Wedding. And you know, my great grandma Martha Butterfield, she made a double wedding ring quilt for all of her granddaughters, of which my grandmother was one of her granddaughters. And she made a double wedding ring quilt for all of them, for all of their weddings. And my mom still has that quilt. And I just really wanted to include that in this collection. And so, here, let me hand that off to you, sis. So let's talk about a few of these things before we go into the quilt. I'm going to talk to you, we're just going to open the storyboard and showing you that, showing you the fabric. This right here is a panel for quilt labels. Now I've done a panel before. I did it on a regular cotton fabric. These I'm going to do on my decorator weight just to make it a little bit thicker. It's still cotton fabric. It's just a kind of a lightweight canvas. I just think maybe they might hold up a little bit better, even though I've loved my last panel and I keep using it a lot. But I wanted to do a panel taking some of my past designs for my last couple years, you know, 2 or 3 years collection that I've been using more of my heritage colors in. And so that's what that is right there. And I wanted to show you, let's see, Colleen, I had asked her to print these off for me. Again, that's about the same size, you can see them. But because this is like a 54-inch wide fabric, these labels are a little bit larger. So I'm just going to kind of show you what they look like. I'll close that again so it's not, so that you can see each one. So this is still a little bit bigger than some of the actual labels, but at least you get to see what they look like, which is what I wanted to do. And so it just leaves you room to write in your own, you know, description of your quilt, what you want to do. And you can write it with a Pigma pen, which is fabric safe. Don't use a Sharpie because it will just bleed. Or you can write in there with pencil and then embroider. That's what I do a lot. So I'm just going to quickly go through these. And, you know, this is just, like I say, a lot of my artwork from previous quilts and previous collections. And you see a lot of this artwork in the past, and some is brand new that you haven't seen, and you'll be seeing it again in other and other things. And some are very simple that will just go with any quilt. I tried to do them in all different colors, and because I've introduced plum colors, you know, a few prints in some of my collection, I wanted to make sure I did a few of those. And so, you know, you can see that is a nod to prairie there. This is hometown. There's so many. I'm just going to go through here. Again, there's a nod to prairie, and we're just finishing up that sew along within the next few weeks. Any information you want on my prairie sew along is on my blog, Be in My Bonnet. Okay, we're getting through these. That's from Prim. These were really fun to design and put together. Here's some larger ones. I did all different sizes. And I've got a couple more here. So I always try to get print off so I can show you larger things during this market, so you can really feel like you're up and, you know, up close and personal. I know I keep saying that, but with the designs and things like that that you see in the storyboards, because we try to pack as much as we can into those. And I just like you to have a little bit bigger view. And so let's see what's next. So that's the labels panel. And of course you can buy that as many panels you want. It's just in continuous yardage or however you as quilt shops want to package them per panel or on the bolt, however you want to do it. Now next we have the quilt, and it tells you the fabric requirements and all of that. This is 75 by 84, and it always goes through and, you know, tells you the different notions and things like that for the quilt. And so right here is the invitation. This quilt along is starting September 18th of next year. Now my fabric comes in July, and I normally start my sew alongs in August, but I decided to give it a little bit more time to get the start, you know, let the quilt shops get the fabric, get the kits cut and things like that. And so I will be starting this in September. And so there's a little bit larger thing of picture of the quilt. And of course I do have pictures that I want to show you and talk to you about this quilt. So what I did, okay, just hang on for just a minute. Okay, so what I did is I designed 10 different 5-inch blocks, and then we did each block, I recolored each block in 4 different ways. So what I'm saying is these are the same 10 blocks, but they're in different areas of the row, and then they're in different fabrics of the previous ones. So I'm not going to show you all of these because that's 40 blocks, but just, you know, this is kind of real size, meaning, see, those 2 are the same block, but they're in different colors, you know, things like that. Here's, well, let me move this one out of the way. Here's another one. So we'll be doing this 4 times. And so they're all pretty simple. And so I'm just going to skip through. I have them all numbered just so that I know where they go. Different notes if I needed them. Okay, so that's all of the piece blocks in this quilt, and the rest are applique blocks, and they are 12 houses. Okay. And so I do have an actual size print off. Again, you get to see my notes. I don't know if you really want to see my notes, but this is the print offs. This is how I decide the quilt kit and how much yardage we need as I go through each one and go through all the notes. And I don't know if you can see them, but see what I mean? All these notes down here. But so here is the beehive house. Here is the topiary house. Now I designed these you know, from different memories of my childhood, some of the older homes, my great aunt's homes and things like that, in Harriman, and just different things, you know, that we would do. And so they have a lot of meaning to me personally, and I just hope they just look cute to you. You don't need to know the meaning behind them, but you know, unless you want to, I can tell you. But you know, we always had cherry trees, and so that's why I decided to put a cherry here. My dad still has all his cherry trees as far as the whole town, you know, mostly had cherry trees. This is the fireworks house, and we were they still are a very patriotic town, and so we always did fireworks and things for the holidays, and so that was one family tradition and town tradition that we always had, and for Harriman Town Days, and so that's why I wanted to include that. And so that's the kind of thing that I'm talking about as far as childhood memories from my own home and my grandma's home, my aunts, and just friends and neighbors. And this is the strawberry house, and this is the sheep house, and this is the tulip house, and this is the pineapple house. And pineapple, I want to include this because pineapple is a symbol of welcome, and we were welcome in every home in that town. And so I just wanted to show you these. So excited to do these applique blocks. And of course, I'll talk about their different meaning during the sew along as we go along. You know, things I didn't necessarily explain in detail here. So I'm just going to put these back. Give you one more glimpse so I can hand it over to Sis. Okay. All right. All right, so now here we've got the quilts that are going to be coming in. Let me put this in a different order. Let's see. Where's my printouts of those? I thought I had larger printouts of the quilts, but maybe I don't. These are pretty big in here. Okay, so this is my 10-inch stacker quilt. And you can see right here, this Hometown Welcome kit. This is what it's called, Hometown Welcome. And this is a traditional block to me that's always meant welcome. And so, as I said, we were welcome in every, you know, literally every home in that town. And so I wanted to do a block that meant welcome. So I got to clear out this container because I put stuff in here to show you. But this is the container that I designed, and it fits a 10-inch stacker perfectly, and then it's deep so that you can put your kit in here. But I designed for this Hometown quilt to go in. So the pattern will be in here and the quilt, and then you'll get this container. But you can always purchase the container separately for your quilt shop so that you can kit your own quilts, or we can use this as storage in our sewing rooms. We can use this as storage for our 10-inch stackers. You can use this as gifts for many different things. Let me move this so maybe you can see how it looks right there. It's really cute. And the lid is easy to take on and off and just snaps like that. And I think this would be like cute at Christmas time. Like, why not put like a gingerbread house kit in there with a cute ribbon and a card? It also works for Mother's Day. But I mean, a home just works for so many different things and holidays. So I think it's a great box for all different kinds of storage, for all different kinds of quilts that quilt shops might want to use it for, and just for gift giving. And you know, it's got that cuteness factor. So I wanted to show you that. And again, that will be a quilt made with 10-inch stackers of Hometown, and will all be included in there. And then here is my quilt that will come in my little box here that I do with 5-inch stackers. And this is the Friendship Star, which is a nod to the Carpenter Star, which is traditional quilting. And of course, the Hometown is all about traditional quilting for me because of how I grew up. And so those are those two that I wanted to show you. I also have 4 charms. Now these I'm tweaking. Some of these I'm tweaking a little bit with the color, but I wanted to show you. Let's see. So this is basically, I'll do this kind of like this, so hopefully it doesn't glare too much. So you can see the real size of those. The bird. These are just some of the things that I had on the rooftops of the house. I chose 4 of them. This little teacup. Then I've also, you know, a couple years ago, I got to do a set of playing cards that I love. We're a card playing family. I grew up in a card playing family. I played cards at my grandma's house and with my aunts and everything, and we still play cards a lot. And so I'm excited to be able to be getting more playing cards. So this is what they look like on the inside. This is what they look like on the outside. And I don't have a sample of the mug yet that I can show you, but of course I'll be doing my tin mug with this, as I usually do. And what else? I will have more design boards in this collection. I will have my washi tape. I took this apart so I can show you. Okay, so here's like, this is what it comes like. And if you've watched my videos before, you know that I use this for a bookmark after. I'll cut this off and use paper crafting stuff. But here's my washi tape. These 3 rolls, what it looks like. And I grabbed a piece of paper and put some down on a piece of paper so you can see what that washi tape looks like. I love it. I'm excited about it. So there's that. Let's see, what else have I got? Here's the binder right here. I love to use my beekeeper binders for my sew alongs, and so far up to this point I've made, you know, designed a new one for each collection. So this is the hometown, and this is what I put my sew along guide in for the sew along. And I don't have a sample to show you, but I will be doing a hometown calendar for 2024, and all 12 of these houses will make their way into the 12 months of the year. And here's this box again, showing you that it's a project box and that you can order them separately from the kit. And then another thing that will be out pretty shortly is I have 10-inch square pre-cut sewing interfacing. So this is my same sewing interfacing that comes, you know, in 3 yards right here. But now it will also come, this is not to replace this, it will also come in pre-cut 10-inch squares. And you will get 100 squares per pack, 10-inch cut. Now, all of my Sew Simple shapes are not smaller than 10 inches. Most of them are. So, you know, you'll still need this for some things, but I just wanted to be able to have some flat pieces, some squares that you can just grab, as well as larger pieces. And also because of my new book, Scrappiness is Happiness, my apron strings block in there that I use my interfacing squares for, these will work really great. And so I'm excited about that. And I know that this pack will work for all of the Bee Vintage Sew Along, because I showed you that those blocks finished at 10 inches. So that means that none of the Sew Simple shapes are larger than 10 inches, obviously. So that would work for that. And then lastly, I will have quilt, well, let me open it that way so you can see. I will have 9 quilt seed packets. I'm doing 9. And so I wanted to show you these. So these are the neighborhood, the hometown quilt seed. You know, I call them my neighborhood quilt seeds, but they are hometown quilt seeds. And I did 9 different ones. The blocks finish at 16 inches. This is what the seed packets will look like. And the reason I'm doing 9 instead of the previous 6 that I did before is because of the quilt setting that I want to do. I needed 9 blocks. And so I have some close-up here to show you. So this is what the packet looks like. This is enlarged a little bit than the actual size of the packet. But then again, the block is a bigger block to show you, but this is not actual size, because the actual size block, this entire block is 16 inches square. These piece blocks inside here are 8-inch blocks. Okay, so that this was neighbor, this is neighbor number 1. This is neighbor number 2, the packaging there. And that's what that block looks like. Again, so I just shrunk them up, so even the fabrics are shrunk up to scale, but to smaller scale. This is neighbor number 3. Neighbor number 4. And again, I will have a PDF, a free download of the finishing and the setting to finish this quilt. Neighbor number 5. All these 8-inch blocks are really fun, and I made sure that I did each house a different color. This is neighbor number 6. And I wanted to be able to do, another reason I did this, I wanted to be able to do a pieced, these are all pieced, there's no applique in these, because I had my main quilt with my Sew Simple shapes, you know, that's on the cover of the storyboard that you know, it's applique. And so I wanted to be able to do a version of a pieced house as well to cover both applique and piecing. This is neighbor number 7, neighbor number 8, neighbor number 9. So that's the last of those. Oh, I think I just found the bigger, I thought I took my printouts. Okay, so here's the larger print off of the 40 by 40 Friendship Star table topper that's in the little boxed kit there. So it finishes 40 inches square, so it's a perfect table topper. This is the backing that I'm going to be using, the white back from the collection. And then here's a larger picture of the Hometown Welcome quilt, which is 74 by 88. And I'm going to be using this backing for that quilt. Okay, I think that's all I have to show you with Hometown. So these are the 3 storyboards here, and I hope you love Hometown. I'm so excited about it. And you know, growing up in a small town and all the families and all the memories are just so, you know, still dear to my heart. And I just really wanted to do a fabric collection to celebrate that. I know we all, you know, most of us have those kind of memories, and hopefully, you know, you'll enjoy that and want to do some projects that remind you of your hometown. But before we go, I wanted to mention real quick the World of Lorie Holt. Okay, so the World of Lorie Holt is something that the Riley Lake team came to me and asked me if they could do this and what I thought about it. And so they kind of had to explain to me, and then I thought that was a brilliant idea. So what it is they are doing kind of a catalog booklet, whatever you want to call it, of all of my things that I have done, like my fabric collections, my designer basics, my patterns, my books, my notions, you know, so much more, just things like that. This is what the cover will look like. This is just a glimpse on the inside, and you can see that it's got 3 holes here, so you can put it in the beekeeper binder. But then it will also have perforated pages in it, so you could remove those pages if you wanted to, because one reason you may want to is because there is an exclusive pattern in here which I designed. They asked me to do a quilt that was exclusive to this booklet, and so that's what I did. And so this is the World of Lorie Holt quilt. Here's a larger picture of that, and you saw some of the pictures in the slideshow in the opening of the quilt. It's 65 by 75, and I just designed a world for the love of quilting, right? Here's our thread, and here's our quilt blocks, and just sewing together. I've appreciated so much all of you sewing along with me for all these years, and I want to continue doing so, and this quilt is a celebration of that. And so I'm excited about that. I'm really excited to have all of my stuff compiled into one place, because it will help me too as well to have a reference instead of having to look up, oh yeah, that storyboard was from 3 years ago, and you know, trying to find them and things like that. Everything is in here in categories now, like my notions, and you know, like all my rulers and all the different sizes I have are in one, you know, my cutting mats, you know, like my scissors, my patterns, all my Sew Simple shapes, they're just like all together in different sections, so you can see, you know, what they look like, and you know, get their SKU numbers and things like that. So I'm pretty excited about that. That will be here next month, and that booklet will be shipping next month. And hopefully you as quilt shops, I'll bring this back in, hopefully you as quilt shops, I know several of you already have this planned, and thank you so much, are doing a sew along with this. I'm hoping that you can host a sew along, whether you have brick and mortar shop, you can do classes and host them there. If you do not have a brick and mortar shop and you're online, you can still do your group of sew alongs together. You know, a lot of online shops do that. And so I really appreciate your support of my products. I really appreciate Riley Blake and being a designer for Riley Blake, and they do so much for me, and I'm so appreciative, and that they basically, you know, make my designing dreams come true. And I hope that you have enjoyed this video and my virtual market for fall, and I will chat with you later.